What is up, everyone? Scott Martin here, Bassmaster Pro, and you're watching a little how to catch a bass on a prop bait.
Freaking 10 pounds, dude.
Got you, got it!
Googly eyes.
Oh, I got it.
Wow.
It's probably 9 or, yeah.
Wow.
Giant.
Prop baits really, in the grand scheme of things, is one of those topwater lures that will catch big fish, real big fish. Okay, it's one of those lures that just draws those big strikes, kind of like a frog, a buzz bait. Topwater is just, when they get bit big. And a prop bait like I have right here, this is a Rapala one. It is basically about 4.5 inches long. And this is what I call a devil's horse. Okay, that's the Smithwick, was the original ones that made the Smithwick devil's horse, kind of long and skinny. And that's one I love here in Florida. I love this during the spawn. And I think in Florida, the reason this size is probably the most popular, probably the most productive, is because we have a lot of shiners in South Florida. And this is about the size of a shiner. And it looks a lot like one just kind of darting around on the top and splashing around, and this bass come up and just chew on it, okay? So that's probably my most favorite one here in Florida. Now let's talk about the other kind. When the bass are around the bluegill beds, especially the full moon in May and June, July and August, depending on where you live in the country, a topwater lure like this one right here, notice how it's a different layout, right? It's a little short, fat thing. It looks a lot like a bluegill. Obviously, it's got the markings like one as well. And there's lots of different companies that make these little short ones like this, but it imitates a bluegill. And I love this during the bluegill spawn, okay? And that's not something I'm gonna throw year round, but it's something that especially works very well when those bluegill are up on those beds and those bass are kind of guarding. So that's the second type of prop bait. And the third type of prop bait is kind of like a little hybrid, right? So check this thing out. This is where it starts getting creative. This is a Japanese lure here. It has a prop on the back, jointed, so it's gonna do the prop bait, but it also has a lip on the front, more like a wake lip. And this bait here, you're gonna reel it through the water, and that prop is gonna make a little churn, like a little buzz bait, and those fish will come up and blow up on it. You can stop this as well and twitch it every once in a while, and it'll give a nice little splash. Let me talk about line and rod. You know, for the most part here in South Florida, I do fish a lot of braid on my prop baits. I like a 50-pound braid. This is P-Line X braid, and typically I will tie on with a double uni knot, a small piece, usually 12 inches or so, of 20-pound CXS, which is monofilament, okay? And what that does, that prevents that monofilament stiff, it floats, and it prevents that line, the braid, from getting wrapped up in your props, which is a problem when you're fishing braid, okay? But when I'm fishing other places, you know, I'm fishing the bluegill prop bait and just normal lakes, I don't fish braid. I usually just fish straight monofilament, not fluorocarbon. This is one of the things you're not gonna wanna fish fluorocarbon on, because the fluorocarbon sinks. So the monofilament is good. So again, the P-Line CXX is probably my number one 15 to 20 pound test, depending on the situation. But here in South Florida, again, braid is key. I love it. And I just tied a little bimini twist right here, which doubled the line. Just kind of a little modification that I did so it keeps that braid from getting wrapped up in the props. Now, rod-wise, very simple. I don't like a big, long, stiff rod, okay? I'm gonna fish these prop baits on 7-foot or 7.3s. This is a 7.3 favorite Rush series. You see me fish this rod a lot. It's kind of like an all-purpose everything rod. They call it a heavy, but it's got enough little tip to it that's good. Again, here in South Florida, lots of grass, big fish. Sometimes you gotta have a little stiffer rod and you gotta deal with the braid. You go north, yeah, not so much. You can get away with a 7-foot rod, but nevertheless, don't fish it on a flipping stick. Don't fish it on a gigantic, heavy action rod. I really don't like spinning rods for it. I really don't. So now, the most important thing is, how do you fish it, right? How do you catch a bass on it? So let's do this. Let's jump on the front of the boat and let me show you how to catch a bass on a prop bait. Notice how I'm just kind of twitching it, reeling up the slack, twitching it, reeling up the slack. I'm kind of just letting gravity pop that rod. You know, you don't want to hit it too hard. You hit it too hard, you move the bait too far forward. You know, this bait is designed to kind of make them mad, right? So the longer you can keep it in that strike zone, the better. And that's why these short little twitches. Baits might only be moving maybe 3 or 4 inches every time I pop it. That's a perfect deal. Just let it sit just a little bit. You don't want to work it too fast. But you need to keep it moving just a little bit so you don't drift over into the sticks. Let's get a point right there. Oh yeah. That looks good right there. Just short pop. Oh, there he is right there. There he is. Little tiny one.
Definitely.
Look at how cute he is. He's so cute. I told you these prop baits catch giant bass. That's exactly what I was saying. At the beginning of the video, I'm like, stay tuned for a giant bass. Yeah. It's like literally, it's crazy. But he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Right there on that point. But again, I'm talking about precise cast. I'm talking about just twitching that tip. You don't want to pull that bait. You want that bait to be popped, not pulled. So that way those props go like they're doing. The biggest thing, guys, that you want to do with these prop baits is when you're fishing them is to make sure your line's not wrapped up in the props there. And now normally I'll take, and I don't have it in the boat with me today, but normally I have some monofilament, like P-line monofilament, and I'll do double uni knot there. But again, what I did, and I talked about it earlier, is this little bimini twist. That basically just gives a little bit more stiffness to that part of the line there so it doesn't fall back and get stuck in the props. Now, the other thing that's real important when you're fishing is to make sure, make real accurate cast, real close to cover. The one really good tip I can give you guys is when you're looking for where to cast this thing, little points and little edges, right down this little, wind's blowing in perfect right there. Now you're not going to want big ripples, right? If the waves get too big, not going to be as productive with a top water. Filthy frog. Oh, there's one. There he is, right there. All right. There we go. That's how you're supposed to have them pinned up. Not a real big one, but boy, look at that right there. That's how it's supposed to pin them right there. All three sets of hooks in them. I've caught some real big fish. That right there is a bass on the prop bait. And again, that's all you do. That's what a prop bait is. That's how you catch a bass on a prop bait. So guys, give these tips and techniques a little try next time you're out on the water. Pick up a prop bait at your local tackle shop, and we'll drop a link in the description down below where you can get some of these. But hey, thanks for hanging out with me, and be sure to subscribe to this whole series of tips on how to catch a bass. We'll see you again real soon, guys. Thank you for all of the support. Bam!